Um, it was a really, really disappointing loss, that one. I think because we're pretty confident as a footy side going into that game. But the Sharkies, they turned in what was, I reckon, their best 40 minutes of the entire season in the first half. They really that's where they really took the game away from us. And not only through their defence, but the way that they moved the ball, the way that they were running, they were super aggressive, and they really shut us out of the game. We barely, I don't think we rarely had the ball up in their half with any real attacking opportunity against them. So it was almost like we just played the game either from our own end or in the middle of the park, and then we just had to do our best to try and get the ball up the other end. But so they played a near perfect first 40 minutes. Got a penalty goal early, then went on to score another try. That little trick play off the scrum, which put Benny Barber over. But we fought our way back. Jesse Bromwich crossed the line, and we thought, well, look, here's a little sniff here. And there wasn't a lot of panic within our group, though, I must say. All right, so at halftime, we go in, it's 8-0. And like I said, they were in complete control. But, I think we come into that half thinking, well, we haven't had a lot of opportunity, to attack. So we're still in it. All we need is some field position, some quality field position, fair share of the footy, and we'll get ourselves back in it. And so we did. It took us until the 50th minute to cross the line, I think, when Jesse first scored. We go back, so it's 8-6, and all of a sudden we're back in the game, and we start getting a little bit of momentum, and we work our way downfield, and then so Will Chambers crosses, and all of a sudden we're like, well, we're on top. We're on top, and we've been in this position many, many times before. This is the position we're very comfortable, being up by 4 points and being able to close out a game. What was there? Just a little bit more than 10 minutes, I think, to go in the match. And we just had to close it out. But we invited the Sharkies down our own end, I think, through some ill discipline. I don't know if it was an error or maybe a penalty. I think it was a penalty, actually. I think Christian Welsh gave a penalty away. Might have been a high tackle. They ended up getting down our end. And then Andrew Fafita scores that try where he had 3 or 4 of us hanging off him. And he reached out and scored the try, which put him up by 2. And all of a sudden, it was tight game again. And then we almost pulled off a miracle. Almost pulled off a miracle, a lot like the Cowboys did the previous year in 2015 against the Bronx, where we had the ball, we were attacking the Sharkies' end, and we shifted the ball from side to side. We went down our right side. The ball then come out way out to the left, then back out to the right. And I think Marika Corabetti, he ended up getting tackled with the ball after the siren. So like 3 meters out from that try line. So if we found our way across the line, like we win by 2 at the very least. Like, the kick doesn't matter. But it was a funny old game because they were so much on top in the first half, and for us to fight back, like moments before the Fafita try, like in my mind, I'm supremely confident that we're going to win.
Yeah, wow.
Because I'm thinking like we've been the better team in the second half. We're now up. We're up by 4 points. We're in control of this match, and we're happy to be in this position where we are now. Up by 4, not much to go on the clock. Let's just close this out like we've done many, many times before. But a big effort by the Sharkies to get it done. Big effort.
This was almost pre the new era of the Storm, where you really, when you say you guys were comfortable at winning with a 4-point lead or a 2-point lead, like you'd almost built the Storm on that since 2000 and what would have been 4 or 5.
Yep.
And then was it after this game where you kind of had a look at, maybe there's a different way to play Storm footy?
Yeah, well, that's when we went into that 2017 season and we thought, well, we need to change it up a little bit. So we went from that side that really loved the arm wrestle and grinding, and that was something that we didn't want to throw out the window.
Yeah.
we wanted to retain that style of footy that we were happy to play, but also we thought, well, let's be a little bit more expansive, because I think that's what the Sharks did a really good job on us in that grand final in 2016, was that they just shut our attack down.
Yeah.
Whereas the following year we thought, well, let's do something that no team's doing right now, and let's play really expansive football. So that's when you've seen the 2017 Melbourne Storm side. Like we were going sideline to sideline.
Yeah.
From tackle to tackle. There was no settle plays. There was no, we wouldn't have a shift and then they go, okay, send a rucky in to settle down and then we'll have another shift. Like we'd go from one sideline and then we'd have another back line set up. We'd go another sideline and just we'd be moving defences around all the time. That was something that we took out of that grand final, Kempy.
Yeah.
Was that we can't be so, we can't be so one-dimensional with our football.
It's incredible how impactful that 2004 or 5 till 16 was. That I only reckon it's been the last year or two where people have gone, Storm are an attacking side. Like, I think that reputation of a grindy side, it stayed with you for years after that. But in reality, obviously you still had it in you. You could grind a game out of you, had to. But you'd actually changed up kind of your philosophy in regards to attack.
Yeah, absolutely. I think before that game or before that result, like our mindset was that, like, let's just hold on to the ball, work through our sets and grind opposition teams into really sort of like boredom and wait for them to make a mistake. And that's when we'll pounce. But like I said, in that first 40 minutes, they were so good. They didn't make an error. They didn't give us an opportunity. And all they did was they smothered our attack. And when they had the football, they were very clever at where they ran, the amount of work that they made us do, and it really took its toll. Like we nearly pulled off a miracle, but I think, as I said, the first 40 minutes, that was where the damage was done.
And the Sharkies, for you personally, like, strangely enough, like, you've had rivalries with Manly and obviously the Broncos in the early 2000s, but for some reason, Sharkies were Smithy. Was it any? Did you get after that grand final? Was it there always that feeling of, like, not necessarily an individual rivalry, but a Melbourne Storm rivalry with the Sharkies?
Yeah, I think so, because I think when you do play a grand final against a certain team or a club, I think that's a rivalry is born. Moving on through seasons afterwards, and I think most certainly there was with the Sharkies team, particularly because they were quite strong through that little period, right? Around that sort of 16, 17, 18, they were a strong footy side, and they competed hard like every week, and we had some close battles with them. So, and no one can forget the game at Shark Park the night I got 10 in the bin, and the entire crowd ran across to the tunnel.
Oh, mate!
To just wave me up the tunnel to go and sit down in the dressing sheds for 10 minutes. But I don't know, maybe that was off the back of, I reckon the matchup between myself and Gal had a little bit to do with that. Given Gal was the captain of New South Wales, I was the captain of Queensland through that little period. I think that added a little bit to it as well.
Yeah.
The rivalry thing. Not that it was Gal versus myself. When it comes to Storm and Sharkies, but I just think that added sort of rivalry that we took from State of Origin come into those games with our respective clubs. I don't know, mate. I might be wrong, but that's just what I felt. But at the same part, as disappointing as it was to lose that grand final, as I said, because we were extremely confident going into that game, thinking, well, if we play our best, I think we'll win this. I genuinely was very happy for their footy club and their fans, given they hadn't won one. They talk about the porch light and all that sort of stuff. And, and I remember speaking after the game when I went up to do my speech on behalf of the losing side, was that, I was actually really happy for their footy club and their fans to experience that, to experience something that they'd never had before. I was lucky enough to experience a grand final win. and I knew what it felt like. And now for those fans, some of them, some people, some Cronulla fans had waited a lifetime for that. For that one moment,
yeah.
So from a fan's point of view, like that was an incredible thing. As disappointed as I was that we didn't win the match, and we wanted to win the match, I was really happy for those that had waited a long, long time to actually experience a grand final win for the Sharkies.
And, mate, 74 tackles. Now, you're like, as an outside looking in, whenever you watch Smithy play, it looked like he never was blowing. But surely 74 tackles in a grand final. Were you just in the washing machine or
Mate,
what?
I was pretty cooked. Like, afterwards. Like, you don't know, right? You don't know during the game, like, how many tackles you've made or how many runs you've made. Like, you sort of – you get a bit of a gauge of how you're feeling and understand that you've done a bit of work. I knew I'd done a fair few tackles in the first half. I knew that because they had most of the ball, and it seemed like every one of their ruck players was running at me. And maybe that was a ploy. I don't know. Maybe that was a tactic. I'm not too sure. But when I finished, and then when we did our review and all that sort of stuff, like when you lose a grand final, you don't really want to know too much about the game.
Yeah.
Any of the breakdown of it, the stats or whatnot. But then when we did our review, and I think it might have been one of the assistant coaches, I said, mate, you made 74 tackles. And I was like, yeah, well, it felt like that Monday morning when I woke up.
Yeah, wow.
But,
74.
it was a lot. But, like when you're playing, you don't think about that. You just get it done and whatnot. But, yeah, is what it is, mate. And unfortunately, we fell short just